My brother forced a buyout to cut me out of my own company. He forgot I owned all the clients. He wanted 100% of the profits. He ended up with 100% of nothing. In business, there is a concept called vertical integration. It's when you own the supply chain. You own the design, you own the materials, and you own the labor. It is the holy grail of efficiency. It is how Rockefeller built Standard Oil. It is how Carnegie built U.S. Steel. My brother and I had that. We were a perfect machine until he decided he didn't need the engine anymore. My name is Harvey Hickock. I am 38 years old. I am the founder and CEO of Hickock & Associates, one of the top architecture and engineering firms in the state. We design skylines. We engineer bridges. We are the first phone call developers make when they want to spend $50 million. I also own Hickock Materials, a supply company that imports high-grade steel and glass from Germany and Japan. I have always been the head. I plan. I strategize. I look at a city block and I see the math. My brother, Roland, has always been the hands. Roland is 4 years younger than me, and to understand why I trusted him with $2 million, you have to understand where we came from. We didn't grow up with money. Our father was a general contractor who worked his fingers to the bone. He smelled like sawdust and drywall dust every day of his life. When we were kids, Dad would take us to job sites. I would sit in the truck and draw the buildings. Roland would jump out and grab a hammer. By the time he was 12, he could frame a wall better than most grown men. By the time he was 18, he could read a site plan and spot errors that architects with master's degrees had missed. He is a master builder. He has an intuitive understanding of physics and materials. He can look at a set of blueprints and spot a load-bearing issue in 10 seconds. He can manage a crew of 200 men without raising his voice. He is brilliant at execution, but he was always terrible at business. Roland never understood leverage. He never understood contracts. He just wanted to build. 3 years ago, Roland came to my office. At the time, he was working as a site foreman for Megacorp Construction, a massive conglomerate. He was making 6 figures, but he looked miserable. He looked like a caged animal. "I'm tired of making other people rich, Harvey," he said, pacing around my glass-walled office, looking at the models of skyscrapers I had designed. "I'm running the biggest job in the city, the convention center expansion. I'm saving them millions in labor costs. And what do I get? A 3% raise and a pat on the back." "That's corporate life, Roland," I said, leaning back in my chair. "It's not just that," he said, stopping to look at me. "I see the invoices, Harvey. I see what they charge the client versus what it costs to build. The margins are insane. I want that. I want to build my own thing. Hickock Construction. But the banks won't touch me. I don't have the collateral. I have a mortgage and a truck payment." I looked at him. I saw the hunger. I saw the talent. And I saw an opportunity. You see, my firm, Hickock & Associates, had a problem. We designed beautiful buildings, but we had to rely on third-party contractors to build them. And third-party contractors are a nightmare. They cut corners. They substitute cheap materials. They miss deadlines. If I could control the construction, I could control the quality. "How much do you need?" I asked. Roland blinked. "What?" "To start. To do it right." "How much?" He took a breath. $2 million. That gets me the bonding capacity for commercial jobs. That gets me the heavy equipment, excavators, cranes. That covers the insurance and the initial payroll for a Tier 1 crew. I want to do big commercial jobs, Harvey, not houses. I want to build what you design. I ran the numbers in my head. It made perfect sense. It was the missing piece of my empire. "I'll give you the $2 million, I said. Roland's face lit up. It was the look of a man who had just been handed the keys to his destiny. "Seriously?" "On 3 conditions," I said, raising a finger. "Name them." 1. We are 50-50 partners. I provide the capital and the clients. You provide the labor and management. 2. You buy your materials exclusively from Hickock Materials at market rate. This ensures quality control. 3. We split the net profit down the middle. "Done," Roland said, extending his hand. "Partners." We launched Hickock Construction the next month. It was a rocket ship. Because I owned the architecture firm, I controlled the flow of work. When a client hired me to design a luxury hotel, I would say, If you want this built on time and to my exact specifications, you use Hickock Construction. They are the only ones I trust with this design. The clients trusted me. They hired Roland. Year 1 was a blur of concrete and steel. Roland ran a tight ship. His work was impeccable. We built the Skyline Plaza. We built the riverfront lofts. Roland was in his element. He was on site every day at 5 a.m., covered in dust, laughing with the guys, solving problems. At the end of the fiscal year, after paying all salaries, insurance, and overhead, the company netted $4 million. Roland walked into my office. He looked different. He wore a nicer watch. He stood a little taller. He handed me a check for $2 million. ROI achieved, he grinned. You got your investment back in 12 months. Most startups take 5 years. Good work, I said, putting the check in my drawer. Now the fun starts. Now we scale. Year 2 was even better. We expanded. We took on 3 high-rises simultaneously. The synergy was flawless. My firm designed it, my supply company provided the steel, and Roland built it. We were unstoppable. At the end of year 2, the net profit was $12 million. Roland handed me a check for $6 million. We're rich, Harvey. He laughed, shaking his head. I never thought I'd see this many zeros. I just bought a boat. Can you believe it? Me with a boat. Everything was perfect. Or so I thought. The problem wasn't Roland. Roland was a good man. Roland was loyal. But Roland was also easily influenced. The problem was the voice in his ear. Her name was Jessica, Roland's wife. I never got along with Jessica. She was the kind of person who calculated the cost of your watch while shaking your hand. She had never worked a day in her life. She came from a family that had status, but no money, which is a dangerous combination. She felt entitled to wealth, but had no idea how to generate it. When Roland was a foreman, Jessica complained that he worked too hard for too little. When Roland became a CEO, Jessica started complaining that he wasn't getting the credit. I started noticing changes in year 3. It started with the executive lifestyle. Roland started showing up to job sites at 9 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. He traded his pickup truck for a Range Rover. He started wearing tailored suits to pour concrete. Then came the complaints about costs. Why do we have to buy steel from you? Roland asked during a quarterly review. He was tapping a gold pin against the table, a pin Jessica had bought him. I found a supplier in Vietnam who can do it for 20% less. Because Vietnamese steel doesn't always meet the seismic rating for the buildings I design, I said, annoyed. We went over this, Roland. Hickock Materials guarantees the supply chain. If the steel is late, I fix it. If you buy from Vietnam and it gets stuck in customs, you miss your deadline and pay penalties. The 20% savings vanishes the moment you miss a milestone. It's eating into the margin, Roland mumbled. Jessica thinks we're overpaying. She says you're double dipping. You make money on the design, and you make money on the materials. Jessica isn't an engineer, I said sharply. And Jessica didn't put up the $2 million to start this company. Stick to the agreement, Roland. He grumbled, but he agreed. But the poison was already in the well. Jessica was whispering in his ear every night. He's using you. You do all the work. He just sits in the AC and collects checks. You're the genius. You're the builder. Then came this strategy meeting. It was 2 months ago. Roland asked to meet me for lunch. He said he wanted to discuss long-term planning. He brought Jessica. That was the first red flag. Jessica never came to business lunches. We sat down at the Capitol Grill. Jessica ordered a bottle of wine that cost $400 without asking me. She looked around the room like she owned it. So, Jessica started, smiling that shark-like smile. Roland and I have been looking at the books. Hickock Construction is doing incredible numbers. We are, I nodded. It's the best year yet. The thing is, she continued, swirling her wine, Roland is doing all the work. He's on site. He manages the crews. He deals with the unions. He takes the liability. You, well, Harvey, you just sit in your office and design pretty pictures. I put my fork down. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. I provide the capital. I provide the bonding. And most importantly, I provide the clients. We have clients now, Jessica said dismissively. The brand is established. Everyone knows Hickock Construction is the best. We get calls every day. And Roland chimed in, looking at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. We think the 50-50 split isn't fair anymore, since I'm doing the heavy lifting. What are you proposing? I asked. Roland reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a check. It was for $2 million. I'm buying you out, Roland said. His voice was rehearsed. Jessica had coached him. This is your initial investment back. According to the operating agreement, Clause 14b, the managing partner has the right to trigger a buyout of the silent partner if he returns the principal capital plus a 10% premium. I added 200 grand to be nice. I looked at the check. I looked at Roland. You're kicking me out? I asked. Of the company I built with you? You're forcing me out so you can keep my share of the profits. I built it. Roland snapped, finally looking up. I poured the concrete, Harvey. You just wrote a check 3 years ago. Why should you keep getting $6 million a year for doing nothing? And the clients? I asked calmly. Where do you think they come from, Roland? Do you think they hire you because of your Range Rover? They hire us because we're good. Jessica interrupted, slamming her hand on the table. We don't need your referrals anymore. We have a backlog, and we definitely don't need your overpriced materials. We're switching suppliers next week. We're going to maximize our profit. We're going to be a powerhouse. I looked at my brother. He was lost. He was drunk on the idea of independence, but he didn't realize he was standing on a trapdoor that I held the lever for. Okay, I said. I picked up the check. I folded it and put it in my pocket. You accept? Jessica asked, surprised it was this easy. She expected a fight. She wanted a fight. The contract is clear, I said. If you want to go it alone, go it alone. But understand this, Roland, you are cutting the safety line. There is no net. I don't need a safety line, Roland said, leaning back, puffing out his chest. I can fly. Good luck, I said. I stood up, paid for the wine Jessica ordered, one last gesture of dominance, and walked out. I didn't scream. I didn't sue. I didn't argue. I went back to my office. I called my VP of engineering, Sarah. Effective immediately, I said. We are removing Hickock Construction from our preferred vendor list. Any client who asks for a recommendation gets redirected. Redirected to who? Sarah asked. Roland is the best builder we have. To us, I said. Us. I'm launching a new division, I said. Vertex Build. We're going to hire our own crews. We're going to do the construction in-house. I'm tired of outsourcing. I want total control. It'll take 6 months to spin up, Sarah warned. We need equipment. We need staff. Do it, I said. Whatever it costs. The fallout was silent at first. That's the thing about momentum. A train keeps rolling for a while after you cut the engine. Roland had a backlog of projects to finish. For the first 3 months, he felt like a king. He kept 100% of the profits. He told everyone who would listen that he had freed himself from his controlling brother. He bought a vacation home in Aspen. Jessica posted pictures of it on Instagram with the caption #selfmade. But then, the backlog cleared. And the phone stopped ringing. You see, Roland and Jessica made a critical calculation error. They thought Hickock Construction had brand equity. It didn't. The clients didn't hire Hickock Construction. They hired Hickock and Associates, my firm. They hired me. They trusted my design. The builder was just a detail I handled for them. When I stopped putting Roland's name on the contracts, the flow of work didn't just slow down. It evaporated. 80% of his revenue came from my funnel. Roland tried to bid on public projects to fill the gap. He bid on the metro parking structure. To win the bid, he had to be the lowest price. To be the lowest price, he had to use the cheaper suppliers Jessica wanted. He used Chinese steel. He used discount concrete. The problems started almost immediately. The Chinese steel arrived late. It sat in customs for 6 weeks. The project fell behind schedule. Roland had to pay overtime to catch up, eating into his maximized profit. Then, the inspection happened. The steel failed the stress test. It had microfractures. The city inspectors shut the site down. They ordered Roland to tear it out and replace it. It was a disaster. It cost him millions. Meanwhile, Vertex Build, my new division, was thriving. And here is the kicker. I needed staff. I needed foremen. I needed project managers. I needed skilled laborers. Where did I find them? I hired them from Roland. Roland couldn't make payroll because the parking structure job was bleeding cash and he had no new jobs coming in. He started laying people off. His best foreman, a guy named Mike, a man who had been with us since day one, came to my office 4 months after the buyout. Harvey, Mike said, taking off his hard hat. The ship is sinking over there. Roland he's not himself. Jessica is in the office every day, yelling at people about overhead. They switched the coffee brand to save money. But worse, he's using garbage materials. He's cutting corners on safety. I can't put my name on that work. You have a job here, Mike, I said. Vertex build. Same pay. Better benefits. And we use Hickock materials. No garbage. When do I start? Monday. Bring your crew. Piece by piece, I dismantled his company. Not by attacking him, but by simply being the thing he refused to be, competent. 6 months later, the rumors started circulating. Hickock Construction was defaulting on loans. The Porsche was repossessed. The Aspen house was back on the market at a loss. Jessica was telling everyone that I had sabotaged them, that I had badmouthed them to the industry. I hadn't said a word. I just stopped handing them success on a silver platter. I let gravity take over. 1 year after the buyout, I was in my office, reviewing the plans for a new skyscraper, the Millennium Tower. It was the biggest project of my career. Vertex Build had just won the construction contract. There was a knock on my door. It wasn't my assistant. It was a knock I recognized. A specific rhythm. Tap, tap, pause, tap. Come in, I said. It was Roland. He looked 10 years older. He wasn't wearing the tailored suit. He wasn't wearing the Rolex. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He looked thin. His face was gray with stress. Hey, Harvey, he said, his voice cracking. Roland, I said, not getting up. I kept my hands on the blueprints. To what do I owe the pleasure? Did you come to buy me out of my architecture firm too? Or did Jessica send you to ask for a loan? He winced. The name Jessica hit him like a physical blow. He walked over and sat in the chair opposite my desk, the same chair where he had sat 3 years ago to ask for the first $2 million. It's gone, he whispered. What's gone? The company. Hickock Construction. I filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy yesterday. The lawsuits from the parking structure, the overhead. I couldn't keep up. The bonding company came after me personally. I nodded. I heard. I lost the house, he continued. The bank took it this morning. I'm staying at a Motel 6. And Jessica? I asked. Roland laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. A sound of a man who realizes he has been played. She left, he said, the day the bank froze the business accounts. She said I was a failure, and she couldn't be with a man who couldn't provide the lifestyle she deserved. She moved back in with her parents. She's already dating some guy in finance. We're divorced. The papers are signed. He looked up at me. His eyes were red. He was crying. You were right, he said. She was poison. I listened to her because, I don't know. I wanted to be the big man. I wanted to prove I didn't need you. I wanted to show off. But I didn't need you. I needed the clients. I needed the materials. I broke the machine, Harvey. He put his head in his hands. I have nothing, he sobbed. I'm 34 years old, and I have nothing. No job. No wife. No home. My reputation is trash. No one will hire me. I looked at him. I saw the arrogance was gone, burned away by failure. I saw my little brother, the kid who used to hold the flashlight for our dad. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad. He was my brother. We could have ruled the city together. We could have been a dynasty. But business is business, and forgiveness has to be earned. You're a hell of a builder, Roland, I said quietly. He looked up, confused. What? I have a project, I said, tapping the blueprints for the Millennium Tower. 40 stories. Complex foundation. High wind loading. I need a site superintendent who can handle a crew of 300 and spot a problem before it happens. You want to hire me? He asked. After what I did. After I stole the company. I'm not hiring you as a partner, I said sternly. That ship has sailed. I own Vertex Build 100%. You will be an employee. You will have a salary. You will report to Mike. I report to Mike. Roland flinched. Mike used to work for him. It was a humiliation. Yes, I said. Mike stayed loyal. You didn't. You start at the bottom of management. You earn your way back up. And one more condition. Anything, Roland said. I'll do anything. Jessica is never allowed near my job sites, I said. If I see her, if I hear she's calling you, if I catch a whiff of her influence, you're fired. Instantly. I will ban you from the industry. She's gone, Harvey, Roland said. I swear. I learned my lesson. I never want to see her again. I opened my drawer. I pulled out an employment contract. I slid it across the desk. Sign, I said. Roland signed it without reading. His hand was shaking. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for saving me. I didn't save you, I said, turning back to my computer. I hired a competent superintendent. Now go get your hard hat. You're late. Roland is working on the tower today. I watched him from my window this morning. He looks tired, but he looks focused. He's back in his element. Boots in the mud, blueprints in hand. The concrete is pouring smooth. He learned the hard way. Vertical integration works, but only if the people at the top stick together. He tried to cut out the head, and he found out that the hands can't survive on their own. Have you ever had a business partner betray you for greed? Do you think Harvey was right to hire his brother back, or should he have let him suffer the consequences alone? If you believe that loyalty is the most valuable currency in business, hit that like button and subscribe. #BusinessBetrayal.